keen to share their knowledge. So it's a really great company.
100% recommend it to everyone. It's hosted by Sleeping Giant Media, and I came away with what I felt was the makings of a strategy that I could actually apply to the business.
We've been working with Sleeping Giant Media for a little over 3 years. SEO, you've helped us with the migration of our website when we switched domains, content creation, outreach work. It's been a great customer experience. I know that if I'm not able to dedicate time to my own website some weeks or even months, I know it's in good hands.
I've known Luke and Ant for years now, and I know they're good boys.
You can always get in contact with anybody there. It just gives us confidence. We started with very little knowledge of the industry, and again, they've worked with us over the time. They have the knowledge, the capability, and the real understanding of the kind of market we're in.
That they've been really open, really friendly. I definitely know that they push the boat on a lot of projects. Even though we say do this, they'll probably do 5 things going towards that. So yeah, it's been great.
You know, these people are experts in what they say they do. For us, they've been a massive positive and you know, moved the business forward.
It's been a great working relationship, and we look forward to it continuing.
We always get a quick response. If I send an email comes back. If I call up, people call back. It's probably doubled the amount of visits to the site, and conversions have gone up significantly.
I would not hesitate in recommending Sleeping Giant to non-competitors of mine.
We're big fans of Sleeping Giant Media and Giant Campus. We love all of the courses and we have learned a lot, and everyone seems really happy.
Hi guys, and welcome to the Business as Unusual show. It is Wednesday, 4:30. We are halfway through the week, and we have a fantastic guest today. We have Simon Chaplin, who runs a mastermind group of accountants around the country, and done some fantastic work within that sector, helping them to seize the opportunities they're currently faced with. But we wanted to get some insights from Simon, the challenges that the accountancy world is facing, and any ideas as well that he's been sharing with his groups. So I'm going to press the right button now because I've remembered it from last time, I'm hoping. So once we have the intro, we'll intro Simon and get this thing underway. Hi guys, and welcome back. So for those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Luke. I'm the CEO of Sleeping Giant Media. We're a digital marketing agency focusing on getting relevant traffic to our clients' websites, and we put this show together because the world has gone crazy, and in fact, everything that was usual is completely unusual. So we wanted to share some ideas and concepts with everybody, hopefully build up a network in the process of doing it, and hopefully have a little bit of fun at the same time. If you've got questions for myself or for Simon throughout, do put them in chat. So hi Kevin, thanks for the hello, and good afternoon to you. So without further ado, let's introduce Simon. Hello, sir.
Hello, Luke. It worked.
It worked. There was a slight panic, wasn't there, pre-show? I think we had about 30 seconds to spare before the show went live, and I didn't have your webcam being pushed through onto my screen. But I'm delighted to say that we've managed to put it all together just in time. So how are you getting on? How's things?
It's busy from my perspective. So just to share a little bit more about what I do, I've got an accountancy practice that has got about 600 customers that work for it. That we service. I've got 20 team members that work for Greenstones, and I've managed to extract myself out of that practice, and I now help other accountants through the Accountants Mastermind do a similar sort of thing. So I've got kind of 2 hats on. I've got an accountancy practice hat plus a sort of a wider picture of what's going on in the accountancy world and the business world really nationally.
Yeah. So maybe start with your accountancy practice. How's it kind of faring during this kind of time period? What have you seen? Because I mean, there's a kind of a huge amount of information out there for businesses that they have to kind of deal with, which has financial kind of implications. But does it translate into billable work, or is it something you're just having to do as part of of kind of helping businesses through it?
So we've took a an approach of supporting our customers. So the best way I can describe it is when it kicked off on the 17th of March or the 19th of March or whatever day it was.
23rd of March, because it's my birthday, which is a brilliant, so it's a great day to remember.
in that first 2 weeks of the lockdown and coming up to the lockdown, we effectively had 4 budgets in the space of 2 weeks.
Of course.
Now, it's bad enough as a profession when you get 1 budget a year, but to have 4 in that quick succession. And the other aspect of that as well is that there wasn't anybody out there training us in it, because it was new to everybody. It wasn't as though there was something that we could learn. So I won't say it was chaos, but we was all learning on the job and helping customers understand that and integrate it into their practices or into their businesses. But the big thing really was coming back to the fundamentals, and the fundamental was short-term cash flow. So am I going to be able to survive over the next 4 weeks even, let alone the next 12 weeks, the next 12 months, the next 12 years? So the crux for us was to help our customers, support our customers to understand their position. Now, the consequence of that, as people were struggling, they were fearful of whether they would have the money, basically meant that we couldn't charge, and our normal charging work kind of dried up as well. So we're in, and I'm not making any sort of moans about that, we're in a position where people still need accountancy services, payroll services, bookkeeping, VAT still needs paying, etc., etc. So there's still a requirement for us to help people in those regards. But the extra bonus money, the cherry on the top money, the things that people are doing that's a bit exciting has reduced, certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a challenging one. I think a lot of over delivery happening in our business to try to make sure that we're supporting people, that they're kind of the way they need to be. Hi to Pete in the chat. Any sensible questions, Pete? Chuck them in. Liam, I think it's happy birthday, isn't it, to you, mate? I believe it's your birthday today, so happy birthday for that. And we will be playing the competition. Liam's currently, and if I just quickly cut to the leaderboard, Liam, I saw you comment. I'm afraid you're not in line to get a cup, I'm afraid, my friend. Yeah, you got beaten twice there, I'm afraid. But anyway, so going back to the business challenges that you're facing, how would you give me 3 words that almost describes how you're trying to feel about sort of business and work at the moment?
Well, we are busy was the words that I've used previously. So it is a constant evolving situation, and there was a bit. Now, I know it's calmed down a little bit over the last week, and certainly since Boris stood up on the Sunday night and said that we could all go back to work and hop through the meadows and all the rest of it. But
have you done any hopping through meadows?
No, I'm not. Skipping is generally speaking rather than hopping.
Okay, fair enough.
It's less pressure on the joints, but it certainly calmed down. But there is still that nervousness that people need. From our perspective, they need the support and understanding. So you get to, it's 5 o'clock or whatever time it is that he's going to stand up and make the announcement today, and there's always there's kind of the butterflies in the tummy that there might be something announced today that throws the evening into chaos on a beautiful day like it is at the moment. But it certainly calmed down. Now the other 3 words that I always share are inspiring, challenging, and supporting, which are the motto, the purpose of Greenstone and the Accountants Mastermind as well. So both businesses are about inspiring other business owners and other accountancy practices to improve on their businesses. And we use inspiring first because it's about leadership, because it's easier to lead people forward. Now, if they won't be led through being inspired, then they need to be challenged, which is a little bit more uncomfortable, but some people need that little poke, that little push. And once they've been challenged or inspired to change, everybody needs supporting through that change process. And that's what we're doing at the moment. In a large majority of cases with customers, we are supporting them through a change process that we are also, as a business owner, I am experiencing as well.
Yeah, and would you say that that's kind of representative of the sort of other accountants in your members group as well, in the sense of they're going above and beyond kind of their standard approach to sort of accounting at the moment? So
certainly within my network, Luke, definitely. and I've been very proud of the way that they have raised their game. And if you'd have told me 2 months ago that I would be associated with accountants that were doing Zoom meetings, webinars, preparing brochures effectively overnight, email marketing, email communication, I'd have said you'd gone nuts. But they have all. It's gone a bit like the old days where we used to talk to people as opposed to emailing them and WhatsApping them, all that sort of stuff. That I'm not naive enough to believe that the circles I'm moving are representative of the whole profession.
Sure.
And there are obviously a large number of accountancy practices out there. I've heard of people that have been furloughed, practices that have closed until the end of June, practices that are working in office with the curtains drawn so people don't know that they're actually in the office and not working from home. There's all sorts of weird and wonderful stories out there. But generally speaking, I am very proud to be associated with a profession that stood up and helped support people. People have talked about as being the fourth emergency service, which I think is a bit of a grand thing, really. I don't think it's that far, but we have certainly helped maintain that. I mean, and have asked to by the revenue as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really confusing. I have some questions in the chat actually to come back to. One of them was, how do you think the role of, so obviously there's this kind of current situation that we're all in, and as we then move into kind of sort of a recovery phase and into the new world, how does the role of an accountant change, do you think? How do you think that in, say, for example, in a year's time, 2 years' time, accountants will kind of differ to how they were maybe 2-3 months ago?
Well, I think the profession has definitely been forced into being more proactive. Again, kind of like we were in the old days, I would like to say. And the technology aspect of it, I mean, as I said, people using Zoom and all that, that was a foreign WhatsApp groups, Facebook groups, that was a foreign language. It was done by other weirdos like me rather than the majority of people. So I hope sincerely that we've raised the bar, and I know we will drop back, but I hope it doesn't go all the way back to where it was. So the interaction and the support, I think, will increase immensely. The short-term aspect of it is I feel now we've had a panic. So the excitement, the newness of it, the giggles, it was all we're working from home and it's all yeah. And I feel over the last sort of week or two, we're moving into like a consolidation phase. There's a place for us to go from the short-term 12-week forecast to perhaps a more 3 to 6 month forecast to get us up to potentially the end of the year. And then the next thing is going to be the first part of next year when income tax, the VAT deferments, the rents come due. And that I'm hoping that small business doesn't get forgotten then by the Chancellor and he starts talking about increases and all that sort of stuff. So the sort of immediate thing, get us out of where we're at, start to focus on getting us towards the end of the year and already start thinking about and planning what we're going to do in the first half of next year when all of those liabilities start to fall due. Yeah,
and actually there's a comment from Liam saying that accountants potentially need to become strategic advisors over the next decade, and actually something that we've been just talking about this afternoon is around our role in marketing is kind of, it feels like we have to be more involved with the overall kind of business conversation in order to then do what we do best. And I guess the same would be said for accountants, potentially kind of getting more and more involved in those day-to-day business conversations.
Massively, and that's the shift. So instead of you coming to us and talking to you about the last set of accounts that you've done that are already 6 weeks out or 6 months out of date, the fact that we're now looking at the next 12 weeks and what's going to happen, I mean, it's uneasy for a lot of accountants because those accounts, we know that they're right, whereas we don't know what's going to happen. There's a subjectivity to the next 6 weeks or 12 weeks. But ultimately, and I talk about this quite a lot, most business owners, we are trusted as a profession from a confidential point of view, and most business owners don't have anybody else that they can talk to like us. So family don't understand, bank managers don't understand, they can't talk to a team, they can't talk to their customers. So we are the trusted advisor. But what most people want, and this applies to any business, whether you're in IT or in marketing, most people just want a good listening to, because they've not got the opportunity to share their emotions, the situation they find themselves in. And if all you do is ask intelligent questions and listen to the response and provoke people, challenge people in my language, it helps them think more clearly, just as a sounding board. So there's a lot of stuff talked about within the profession at the moment about strategic advice and advisory-led management services and all this bloody, sorry, excuse my French, but all this technology language that's got trademark at the end of it, so I can flog an extra few quid on top, which is all right. Most people, they just need a connection.
Yeah.
They just need a conversation, and I say that about like accountants, solicitors, doctors, whatever, IT, whatever language you're in.
It feels, I mean, I've sort of done some work with you guys, and your group seem really kind of forward thinking as an accountants group. And I know, from our own business perspective, I think we're always looking for people to try and help us understand context so we can plan, not just to do almost the reporting on what we've done. And I think there's a comment again from sort of Liam saying that actually when businesses can submit their own accounts, the role for accountants has to move beyond what it has been for quite a long time, which to a degree for a lot of accountants was just providing that kind of tick in the box compilation of all of your financial activity for the year and submitting it, which is useful, but there's much more insight that can be provided.
Definitely, and that was one of the reasons why I moved from accountancy into the consultancy aspect of it. Is I always used to say that there was never any good news in any of my meetings. So it was, you've made lots of money and therefore you've got lots of tax to pay, or you've not got any tax to pay and you've lost money. So both of those conversations, it's a bit like the dentist. It's like if I scraped out without needing a filling, then that was a success. I'm being slightly tongue-in-cheek because that's not how we work, but from a profession point of view, that's quite easily where it is. Now, you can look at things like receipt bank and auto entry and the automatic processing of receipts, and from the outside in, it looks like from a profession, all we're doing, and I accept as a profession we're not very good at communicating this, but as a profession, all we're doing is processing those numbers, whereas we're thinking about problems and the problems that the business owner have got and how we can solve them in order for them to have a more sound financial footing, a better future, etc., etc. So as much as the transactional aspect of it is disappearing slowly, whilst there is cash, there will always be some aspect to us needed to be processing because wherever there's fraud, basically. But there will come a time where we will have, or the business owner will have more budget for us to be more consultative rather than the historic stuff.
Yeah, excellent. You mentioned about sort of next year. So obviously we're in this kind of weird situation where the government's been brilliant with the support in terms of the financial kind of packages and allowing sort of delays to VAT payments. And various different other things, but is there the danger this is pushing this kind of problem just down the road, in the sense that there's also the loans as well that you're seeing that are kind of I hope we haven't done it, but very easy to acquire apparently. People borrowing lots of money to then they've got to make it work. They've got to make it work pretty hard and pretty fast in order to kind of get back to that point. Is there a danger this is a problem just being pushed down the road?
That is certainly one of my fears for businesses that aren't prepared. So if I'm in a low moment, then I can quite easily go into doomsday scenarios next year and all the rest of it. I'm not like that. I would rather understand the position that I believe I'm going to face and then deal with that from a place of knowledge rather than burying my head in the sand. So you've got some important milestones coming up when the furlough changes at the end of June, subject to how that changes, which we'll get to find out next week, next 10 days, how that will be extended, what the businesses will be required to, how they'll be required to contribute to that. So whether it's still 80% or whether it becomes 60-40 with etc. etc. So we will know imminently about job numbers, and then ultimately if people haven't got the job, they can't spend the money, and then that. So I was talking about a U-shaped recession. I think it might be a more sort of down and then a gradual slope up, but who knows? I'm certainly not an economist. You've then got the beginning of next year where you've got a 25th, for lots of people, a 25th of December rent payment. You've got tax that people haven't paid at the 31st July at the end of January next year. You've got the VAT that people aren't paying at the moment that's due at the 31st of March next year. And then you've got the 12-month bounce back loans that they start being repaid 12 months after they're taken out. So about now for most people. So if you're a business owner and you've done that, then you certainly need to be looking at how you're going to fund those capital repayments at the first half of next year. Now, can't believe that the revenue are going to turn around and go, right, we want 100% of the tax and 100% of the VAT on the due dates, because if they do, that will just be chaos as it stands, unless there's some sort of miraculous recovery in the next 6 months. So I would like to think that there will be some staged payments, but you certainly need to be planning for that not to happen. And as long as you've got it in mind and you're having conversations with the revenue about what's happening within your business, then I would like to think that they would be forgiving. In the majority of cases, they are accommodating. You just need to talk to them. So.
And a specific question from Peter in the chat, which is, as a self-employed person, what are the tax implications for the next year? Some rules being relaxed, but still quite confusing.
So I don't know what the specifics of that is, Peter, but obviously you're entitled to claim the compensation under the self-employed compensation scheme, and you should have already done that. And that money, we've got people where the money is hitting the account. If you have got an income tax liability on the 31st of July, you can defer that payment. We call it a payment on account that's due on the 31st of July. You can delay that to the 31st of January of next year. However, as far as we're aware at the moment, 100% of that delayed tax, plus the tax that you would normally pay on the 31st of January, will fall due. Now, another thing for you to be having a conversation with your accountant about, if you've not spoken to your accountant, is if you believe your profits are going to be lower this year, you can do a claim to reduce your payments on account for the following years. So it'd be well worth having a conversation with your accountant, doing some rough estimates on what you think your profit's going to be, and then
adjusting the tax you're paying this year.
Those figures forward. And another really simple conversation to have with your accountant if you're a limited company. Say, for example, you've got a limited company and your year ends the 31st of December. You'll have a high profit, hopefully, for that year. You can extend your accounting period. There are one or two conditions on this, but you could extend your accounting period to the 30th of June. So for a maximum of 18 months, which includes this loss-making or reduced profit period. And then you get taxed on the average over the 18 months rather than a high 12 month and then a slightly lower 12 months to the 31st December 21, which then saves the tax until October 22. So you can bring forward the tax saving on your lower profit. So if you're not having these types of conversations with your accountancy practices, your accountant.
Speak to you.
Well, yeah, you can speak to me by all means, but the first port of call should always be your current advisor, because they will know your personal circumstances and all of your situation there. If you need somebody like me to tell you the best questions to ask, then I will gladly do that. You connect with me on LinkedIn or WhatsApp or whatever.
Pete, I hope
I'll gladly share.
I hope that has answered your question sufficiently there. I think there's some great advice there, Simon, and again, just shows kind of, firstly, the knowledge that you have, but secondly, the sort of willingness to help as well. So thank you very much for that. A few other questions in the chat, more around the etymology of your name. So I think we'll skip over those. And yes, Shep, I did just use the word etymology. If you want, you can Google that one as well. Some of my uni friends have made their way into the chat. So hi guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm sure I'll see some conversations about this on WhatsApp a bit later on. So yeah, no, and again, thanks from Peter there as well. So he's been around for 3 months as a company. So I think he's kind of preempting what the challenges might be. And again, it's some great advice there. We've looked at this similarly for ourselves on a self-employment level, trying to change our tax amounts, because obviously it's based on last year's earnings rather than obviously some slightly revised earnings this year, based on kind of where we're at the moment. So just as we kind of move into the sort of the new world and the kind of the challenges that we face, what sort of things should companies kind of keep their eyes out for? Like, what's sort of the main advice that you're sort of, or the questions you're getting from the companies in your practice? What are they asking, and almost what are the sort of key tips that you could potentially share with them?
So there's two things really, and it goes back to the turnovers for vanity, profits for sanity, cash is king. So if we forget about the vanity of the turnover, again, it is same fundamental basic advice. Look at ways of keeping the cash. So is your debtor system robust? Are you collecting the debts? Do you know that you're paying the right people? When was the last time you went through your list of direct debits, personally and in the company, to make sure you're not paying for 16 Netflix licenses or whatever it is when you don't need to do that? Have you looked at ways of borrowing money from the bank? Are you what we call sweating your assets? So do you have equity in property or equity in assets within the business that you're not using to its full potential? Are you making sure that you're claiming everything from the government? There's a whole list of things to do in order to make sure that fundamentally you are maximizing your cash position, because it's that cash. If you haven't got any cash, obviously it's a waste of time making profit, because the cash is the consequence of making the money. Once you've gone through the cash stuff, then you need to focus on whether you're making profit or not. And I've lost count of the number of conversations I've had with business owners where they do not know whether they are making profit either on a customer or on a job. And it's not complicated. It's nothing more complicated than, this is what I've sold, this is what it's cost me to sell it, and the difference between the two is the profit. But
that's a bit frightening, isn't it? I mean,
well, you'll be amazed. I talked to we have a customer, and basically their sales invoicing process is when the bank starts bouncing checks. So they still send checks. And if a check bounces, they know they've not got enough money in the bank, so they need to start sending out sales invoices. There are businesses out there that still operate on that basis. But if you focus on what your profit is, what your turnover is, how the customers are profitable, and you can look at things like increasing your prices, obviously, or and generally speaking, what people try and do in this scenario is they reduce the prices and try and work harder, which is a dead end to dying, which is not a very good way of doing it. So prices, order frequencies. So can you get people to buy more often from you? The McDonald's trick. So can you increase the order value? Can you create a happy meal so people buy more stuff from you? And then can you increase the number of leads and how you convert those leads? They are basically the four levers of, if you add pricing in, 5 levers of increasing your profit along with reducing the costs. But it is nothing more simple than logging into your online banking, getting a summary of transactions that's gone out for the last 3 months and going through and saying, okay, do I need this perk box or this fruit and vegetable box that turns up once a month that I never eat? It's that kind of simple level in order to kick.
It does kind of worry me hearing that, but I'm also, from some of the things I've seen, I'm not 100% surprised to hear that is the measure was to know when a check bounces was their kind of point when they need to kind of top up the account. And yeah, Liam put a comment, sack customers. I mean, good, as long as you know which ones are profitable and which ones aren't. So do the analysis to understand actually where you make your money, because again, that's another thing that I think a lot of businesses don't seem to do. As long as the kind of this number's bigger than this number, then they're okay. But actually, if you dissect that, you might find that there's some loss-making customers in there as well. So yeah, I think don't be afraid to do that. Maybe not right now. I mean, customers right now probably good to have the revenue. I would have thought there's that balance as well.
Well, there's two aspects to that, and it's a deep conversation. So whenever you do the analysis, there's a Pareto principle where 80% of your income comes from 20% of your customers and 20% of your profits come from 80%, blah, blah, blah. So if you go through and consciously look at the customers, I will put money that people have got customers that they're losing money on, and if they're not losing money, they're losing time on. And if they got rid of those customers and just looked after their current customers better, then they would become more profitable. And I know we're talking in an environment where generating new customers, but your first port of call has always got to be current services to current customers. Have you maximised the revenue that you've got from the people that already know, like and trust you? Because they're working with you. It's far easier to sell something, help them, support them, than what it is go and find somebody else and charge them through the funnel. But I'm not saying don't do that.
Yeah, I know. I backed out of the advice there because I was like, oh, they could do it. And then I was like, no, probably this is different, slightly different times right now. So, right, we are coming to the end. So which that means I was going to quickly jump to this. There is a limited edition Sleeping Giant Media mug up for grabs. Just to recap on the leaderboard here, we have Jenny Kitchen with 5 points. My business partner, Antti Koloku, also with 5 points, but we're putting Jenny in the lead because Ant's kind of got one and he works for Sleeping Giant Media. So, yeah, I think Jenny should be in the lead at the moment. Liam, I'm afraid, in third place with 2. So the question now is, can you beat that score? So we're going to do wild animals again on the heads up game. And are you ready, Simon? Are you ready for this? You've got to try to explain it to me without saying the word. Okay, here we go.
You're a little bit blurry, but
Let's give it a go. Let's give it a go. Okay. And I can skip it.
A long thing that lives in the desert and...
Snake?
Sorry?
Snake.
Yeah, but it's a particular one with a funny tail.
Oh, a rattlesnake.
That's
okay.
it. Perfect.
Did I skip it? Oh, I think, okay, that's all right. We count it as one. That's fine. Carry on.
Makes lots of noise and flies in the air and eats fish and chips at the seaside.
Oh, seagull.
Done, yeah. Lives in Canada, is brown generally.
Brown bear?
It's not very happy.
Brown bear?
Kind of, yeah. It's not grumpy, it's a bit... I think I'll probably claim that one, Luke. But
okay. Yeah, definitely.
Squeaks a lot, lives on the stairs.
Nice.
That's it, Mares, yeah.
Quick.
The most famous one's called Tigger.
Tiger. I think that is 4 because we got the first one. And I accidentally pressed skip instead of doing it. So I'm afraid you are in third place, I'm afraid, Simon. So you won't get a mug. I'm sorry, I'm devastated for you. But I assume at some point we'll meet again in the new world, and I will make sure I bring them on with me whenever we get a chance to catch up. But thank you very much for your time, and thanks very much for the insights. Some awesome takeaways there. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. And as I said, Luke, if anybody wants to connect with me on LinkedIn and ask any questions, then they are more than welcome.
That'd be brilliant. Thank you very much again. Guys, that is it from us today. I hope there's some useful kind of takeaways. There was a question about has my chair dropped, because I'm normally about here. The answer to that question is no, but I did walk into the table as I was trying to panic set up the Skype before the call, which I think has wobbled my camera, so I now look lower. So I will sort that out for next time. So we are back again on Friday. That is at 4:30. So if you're around, please do join us. Grab yourself a beer and hopefully celebrate the end of another week in this crazy business as unusual situation that we are in. So thanks again for tuning in and hope to see you next time.